The book costs $4. That is the part you almost miss. Not the title, not the author, not the fact that it was printed in 1961 by a man whose name never became a brand or a face on a thumbnail, telling strangers how to get rich before 30. Just $4. A water-damaged paperback sitting at the back of an estate sale in Connecticut, wedged between a cracked picture frame and a fondue set nobody wanted. The cover is faded. The corners are soft. It smells like dust and someone else's forgotten life. You pick it up for no good reason, and on the first page, one sentence stops you cold. Capital is not earned, it is preserved. Everything else is noise. You read it again. Not because it sounds clever, but because something in your body knows it is accusing you. You are 27. You have $18,000 in savings, which is more than some people and somehow still not enough to make you feel safe. You make $74,000 a year. You have a Roth IRA. You track your spending in an app that shows you little charts, as if color can explain why your life still feels tight. You are not irresponsible. That is what makes it worse. You have a decent job. You make automatic transfers. You know what an index fund is. You have watched enough finance videos to use words like compound interest and emergency fund without feeling like you are pretending. And still, the number in your account moves like weather. Up in a good month. Down when the car needs new tires. Up after a bonus. Down when you fly home for Christmas. Down when the subscription you forgot about renews. When the wedding invitation arrives. When life quietly sends another invoice. You sit in your car in the parking lot of a Goodwill, holding a book that costs less than your coffee order, and you feel something strange. Not inspiration, not motivation, more like embarrassment. Because the book is not telling you to work harder. It is telling you that maybe you have misunderstood the game. In 2026, you were educated about money by the algorithm. Reels, threads, short videos. Men with ring lights and rented cars explaining wealth in 7 steps. Everyone talks about earning more, scaling faster, escaping the matrix, becoming undeniable. But almost nobody talks about the first rule of people who keep money for longer than one lifetime. Old money rule 1. Never touch the principal. You stare at the sentence because at first it sounds too simple to matter. Never touch the principal. You have heard people say invest. You have heard people say make your money work for you. You have heard people say buy the dip and build passive income. But the book is saying something quieter. Investing is not a mood. It is not a reaction to a market. Investing begins when you identify a pool of capital that is no longer allowed to belong to your impulses, not to fear, not to desire, not to the version of you that gets restless at midnight and checks prices like the future might reveal itself if you refresh the screen enough times. The book puts it in a way that feels almost ancient. Treat capital like land. You do not sell the land. You sell what the land produces. That sentence changes the shape of money in your mind. Until now, your savings have been a number to protect, a number to grow, a number to compare, a number that makes you proud on Monday and anxious by Friday. But land is different. Land is not there to be admired every morning. Land does not ask for applause. It sits, it holds, it waits. If you leave it alone long enough, it begins to produce something without asking for your personality to be involved. You go home and do the math. $18,000. Some of it has to stay liquid. Rent exists. Cars break. Teeth become expensive at exactly the wrong time. But $10,000. $10,000 can become land. So you open a brokerage account. You move the money. You choose boring funds that will never impress anyone at dinner. You set the contribution schedule. You close the app. And then you do something you have almost never done with money before. You stop watching it. The first week is uncomfortable. Your hand reaches for the phone without permission. You want proof that the decision was right. You want the market to reward your discipline immediately. The second week is quieter. The third week, you notice the urge but do not obey it. By the end of the first month, something small has changed. Not in the account, in you. You begin to understand that compounding is not only a financial process, it is a psychological one. The money compounds when you leave it alone. But the person compounds when they learn to leave it alone. That is the part the algorithm never taught you. Attention leaks wealth. So the first shift is not dramatic. You do not quit your job. You do not buy a property. You do not announce a new life online. You simply draw a line around a piece of money and decide that this part of your life is no longer available to your panic. That is the beginning. Not wealth. Not freedom. Not yet. Just the first quiet act of preservation. And once you draw that line, you begin to see the rest of your life differently. Not all at once. At first, it shows up in small moments. You stand in a store holding a jacket you do not need, telling yourself it is good quality, telling yourself it is on sale, telling yourself you work hard and deserve something nice. But now there is a second voice, not a loud one, just a quiet question. Will this hold or will this disappear? That question ruins a lot of purchases. The old book never said to live cheaply. That would have been too easy and too shallow. Cheap people think only about price. Old money thinks about permanence. There is a difference. A $40 shirt that loses its shape after 10 washes is not cheaper than a $160 shirt you still wear 10 years later. A flashy apartment that eats half your income is not an investment in yourself if it quietly steals your ability to invest in anything else. And the strangest part is this. Most people are not broke because they buy things. They are broke because they buy replacements for things they should never have bought the first time. The chair that looked good online. The shoes that hurt but had the right logo. The phone upgrade that felt exciting for 3 days. The dinner you did not enjoy with people you were trying to impress. The vacation you could not afford, taken because everyone else seemed to be living better than you. You begin to understand something uncomfortable. Modern life does not sell products. It sells proof. Proof that you are doing well. Proof that you are not falling behind. Proof that you have taste. Proof that you belong in rooms you are still trying to afford. And proof is expensive. This is where the second old money rule begins to make sense. Your income is not your identity. You used to think identity was personal, but then you start watching people more carefully. The coworker who buys a BMW on a salary that barely supports it, then talks about the payment with a kind of tired pride. The friend who moves into a neighborhood she cannot afford and calls it a step into her next chapter. The couple who posts photos from a resort and comes home to credit card interest they do not mention. Nobody calls it fear. They call it lifestyle. They call it standards. They call it knowing their worth. But you begin to hear the translation. Please believe I am doing well. Please believe I am becoming someone. Please believe I am not behind. Once you hear it, you cannot unhear it. And then slowly, you stop speaking that language. You keep driving the same car. It is 7 years old. It runs. For the first time, you do not apologize for it. You stop explaining why you still live in a modest place. You stop making jokes about being cheap. You stop giving people emotional receipts for why you chose not to spend money. And something strange happens. You feel lighter. Not richer yet. Lighter. Because every status purchase is not only a payment. It is a role you now have to keep playing. The nicer car needs nicer clothes. The nicer apartment needs nicer furniture. The nicer vacation needs nicer photos. The performance expands until your income becomes a stage and every paycheck is spent keeping the lights on. But when you stop performing, your money stops leaking into the audience. Your savings rate rises without a raise. Not because you became disciplined overnight, but because you stopped confusing desire with instruction. By 30, your principal is $41,000. Your income is $88,000. Nothing magical has happened. No viral business, no lucky coin, no sudden inheritance. Just fewer leaks. And fewer leaks do something people underestimate. They make you calm. That calm changes how people see you. In meetings, you speak less, but people listen more. At dinner, you are not trying to prove the bill does not hurt you. Around friends, you stop competing in the quiet contest of who looks most upgraded. People mistake this for confidence. It is not exactly confidence. It is the absence of financial need showing on your face. And that absence becomes its own kind of power. Because when you do not need to be seen as rich, you can start doing what actually makes you rich. Quietly. On weekends, you begin consulting for someone you helped once without charging. Then a second client calls. Then a third. You do not build a brand around it. You do not post a dramatic thread about your journey. You deliver. You wait. You let the work travel farther than your mouth. And this is where the third old money rule appears, not as advice, but as a warning. Your reputation precedes your invoice. At first, you think money is earned by being noticed. Then you learn better. Money is often earned because someone trusted you before you entered the room. That trust is a hidden asset. It has no app, no chart, no daily balance. But it compounds. Every time you show up when you said you would. Every time you finish without needing applause. Every time you do not exaggerate your skill just to win the deal. Every time you protect your name from a shortcut that would have paid quickly but cost you quietly. At 31, your consulting income reaches $3,200 a month. You move it straight into principal. You do not upgrade your life. And this is the moment you realize the first rule was never really about money. It was about becoming the kind of person money can stay with. And once you become the kind of person money can stay with, the next lesson arrives quietly. It does not feel like ambition anymore. It feels like restraint. You are offered a deal that could make you $14,000 in 6 weeks. A year earlier, you would have said yes before the sentence was finished. You would have called it momentum. You would have called it opportunity. But now you notice the details. The rushed language, the missing numbers. The way the person offering it talks about cutting corners as if ethics are just a speed bump for people without imagination. You say no. For 3 days it bothers you. Not because you think you made the wrong choice, but because some younger part of you still believes every dollar refused is a dollar lost. Then the discomfort passes, and what remains is cleaner. You understand the fourth rule before the book even says it. Protect your name more carefully than your capital. Capital can recover. A name once stained travels ahead of you. In 2026, everyone is told to build a brand. But a brand is what you say about yourself when people are watching. A name is what the room believes about you when you are not there. That is different. You keep doing the small things correctly. You answer when you said you would answer. You finish before the deadline. You do not pretend to know what you do not know. You do not make your life look bigger than it is. And slowly, without an announcement, your name starts earning. Someone mentions you to someone else. A family office hears about your work. A person with a quiet problem asks if you can solve it. The fee is $22,000. You almost lower the number because it scares you. But you do not. You hold the number. They pay it. And now the lesson deepens. Money is not always attracted to noise. Sometimes money is attracted to calm. By 34, your principal is $124,000. Your consulting income is strong enough that you leave your day job on a Tuesday morning without a LinkedIn post, without a speech, without the dramatic photo of a laptop in a coffee shop. Old money does not announce transitions. It completes them. You buy a small 2-unit property in a market nobody online is bragging about. It is not beautiful. It is not content. There is no marble countertop to film, but the tenants pay. The numbers work. The debt is reasonable. You hold it, and holding becomes its own skill, because the world keeps trying to make you react. A recession headline, a market drop, a friend suddenly getting rich in something you do not understand, a new trend that makes patients feel foolish. But the fifth rule is waiting underneath all of it. Time is the asset that cannot be repurchased. You start making decisions with a 20-year horizon. That one change removes most of the noise. You are not trying to win a conversation tonight. You are trying to be free in 2046. So you turn down fast money that would eat your attention. You avoid deals that require you to become someone you do not respect. You invest in boring assets, boring relationships, boring systems. And then one day, boring becomes beautiful. At 38, your principal is $340,000. You own 2 properties. Your business earns $180,000 a year without needing all of you. You work 4 days a week. The 5th day is for the work that may not pay for years. The relationship, the introduction, the quiet skill. The thing that compounds before it is visible. People around you are still running. Some are making more than you. Some look richer than you. Some have better photos, better cars, better stories. But you have something they cannot photograph. A floor. Your emergency fund is no longer measured in months. It is measured in years. You tell almost no one, because the final rule is the one most people violate the moment they begin to win. Never let them see the count. Visibility is a tax. The visible rich attract the pitch, the ask, the strange friendship, the family emergency that somehow becomes your responsibility. The deal that only exists because someone thinks you have money to lose. So you stay plain. A $400 watch. A car that still runs. A home that does not announce itself. At 41, your net worth crosses $1.1 million. The moment is quieter than you expected. No music plays. No version of you becomes suddenly complete. You just sit there and realize wealth was not one big move. It was 1,000 small refusals. Refusing to touch the principal. Refusing to buy proof. Refusing to trade your name for fast cash. Refusing to let urgency become your master. Refusing to be seen before you were solid. And somewhere tonight, someone 27 years old is standing in a thrift store, holding an old book they almost did not pick up. The first page says the same thing. Capital is not earned. It is preserved. Everything else is noise. Maybe they put it back. Maybe the algorithm gets them again. Maybe tomorrow they buy another thing to prove they are becoming someone. Or maybe they read one more page. Maybe they choose one small piece of money and make it untouchable. Maybe they stop performing long enough to hear their real life calling. And maybe, years from now, they understand what you now understand. The rules are free. The book was only $4. The real cost is the version of you that needed everything fast. If this hit something in you, do not just save the video. Choose your first piece of principle. Protect it. Leave it alone. And let the quiet version of your future begin.